Well, good afternoon, Beth. It's so good to see you.
Hello.
Hi. We're so glad to have you here to do an interview for our midweek musings. And to everyone watching, this is Beth Kapralian, one of our new session elders. And so we're going to have the opportunity to just have Beth answer some questions today and get to know her a little better. So Beth, I'm going to start off just asking about where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Lansing, Illinois, which I was actually born in Chicago Heights, a neighboring community, but I grew up in Lansing, which is a suburb of Chicago. It's about 30 miles southeast of Chicago, right on the Indiana-Illinois state line. And I spent my first 18 years there until I went off to college. I ended up going to Illinois State University for my undergrad degree.
Very cool. And where do you currently, or actually I know that the answer is most recently work, where were you working recently and what did you do there?
Most recently, I was an instrumental music teacher for Racine Unified School District. I started there in, started there in 2004. And my first position was I filled in for another teacher who was on a long-term leave. So I did a couple of elementary school rotations, and then I went to Starbuck Middle School, and I was there for about 10 or 11 years. And then I ended up at Jersted Middle School. So I've been essentially a middle school band and orchestra teacher for the last 16 years, and I just retired in January. So I'm trying to find a balance right now of being retired during COVID and finding things to do and keep busy with. But so far it's been going well.
Wonderful. Well, yes, congratulations on your retirement. Thank you for all those years of teaching. Lots of our church members will know that not only do you teach music, but you play the flute very beautifully, and I've offered your musicianship to our worship many times over the years, and so we're grateful for that. What individuals have had the greatest influence on your faith life? And maybe you could say a little bit about that.
Yeah, I gave a lot of thought to this question the last couple of days, and I want to start out with my parents. They were very active in the church. I grew up Presbyterian. I've been Presbyterian my whole life, and they were both very active. My mom was active with the women's groups. More so my dad, he sang in the choir, he was on session, he was a Presbytery representative. And I just remember growing up, he was always off to a meeting at some point during the week, or a choir rehearsal. But, I have to say that probably without a doubt, the biggest influence on me was both of my parents, and we were raised in the church and basically went every Sunday, and Sunday school and youth groups and confirmation classes. And I tried to keep that with me. When I went to college, wasn't so successful with that, but then returned back to that when I got out of college and started working. But yeah, hands down, my parents.
I think that's true for so many of us, and you and I share that. We're both cradle Presbyterians, lifelongers. So,
Yes, vipers.
yeah. And when are you most aware of God's presence?
I am most aware of God's presence when I'm out in nature. I love the Finding God Outdoors events that have been scheduled, that we used to do. And, COVID came in and kind of put a squash on that. So I'm glad to see that that's going to be returning. But I'm most aware just when I'm out at a park, just sitting out in the sun and just, the breeze going by and feeling the warmth of the sunlight. And I just feel a real sense of peace when I'm at a park or down by the beach or out walking. And so I miss that, in the wintertime, try to get out as much as I can. But just really feel a deep connection when I'm out in nature. And I don't know where that started. It wasn't like my family was big on nature hikes or anything when we were younger. I don't know, I guess I just maybe stumbled upon it and just kind of found it. And
Mhm.
that's my peaceful place, is just to be outside somewhere.
I think that's true for so many of us, that we can really experience God when we are in nature. Maybe less today as we interview right now, we're in the middle of April and it's snowing outside. Uh, but
It looks
but
nice.
yes, I suppose from inside it does. But certainly, yes, those opportunities to hike and be out and see God's creation is such a gift. What are some of your gifts or talents and things you like to do in your free time?
Well, I love to play the flute. I started in music like most kids when they're 10 years old in fifth grade, and
Mhm.
just have really, I stayed with it, and I have just really loved to be a part of the whole music world. And that sometimes is another place where I feel aware of God. It depends on the music. I've really missed that this last year because I would play in 3 different adult groups and they were all canceled a year ago and have not come back yet. And so I really miss that community with other people, making music like that. There's no greater joy in the world. And so that's a big part of me. And that's something that I really had to grapple with this last year, not being able to participate with other people. And even when I was teaching, I was still making music with people. And I really, really miss that. So we're hoping with double crossed fingers that some of those groups can come back. But that's my greatest passion, is just being involved in music in any way, shape, or form. Um, I like to read books and been watching a lot of Netflix just because I'm recovering from surgery right now and I can't really go anywhere. But music has been my lifelong passion.
Well, I share that love of music with you, and um, I totally hear you about that. I really miss being able to, for me, it's singing, and to not be able to sing with other people, I really miss it. It's a very hard part about this time in
Mm,
our community. So I hope we'll all get back to that soon.
me too. Me too. You don't realize just how much when you're in it, day to day, you kind of take it for granted and you don't realize just how big of an impact it does have on you until it's not there. Well, many things were like that throughout COVID. So
Yeah,
yeah, it'll be, hopefully we get back to some form of that this summer.
I agree. I agree. So when did you join Covenant, and what brought you to Covenant? Why did you join Covenant?
Good question. I can't remember the exact year, but I know it was prior to 1997 because my youngest son was baptized
Hmm.
at Covenant. And so it was prior to then. I had relocated here to Racine due to a job change within the family. And so, like I said, I was born and raised Presbyterian. So when I came to Racine, I was looking around for a church to join, and I sampled the 3 Presbyterian churches, and I fell in love with Covenant. This is a cliche or to say this, but it's true. It was very welcoming and a warm and welcoming community. And the people were very nice, and just it was a great place. I enjoyed the then pastor, who was Mark McDonough. Just felt a real connection to him and in his sermons and things, and just the whole Covenant community. I was like, oh yeah, this is where I want to be. So I joined, and all 3 of my kids were raised in the church. Same thing, part of Sunday school, the youth program, confirmation class, and so I've been there ever since. So I don't know, I want to say could be 20, 25, 27 years. It's been a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, that's a nice long time. And it may be a cliche, but isn't it nice when cliches are true? And
Yeah.
and I hear that from so many folks, that Covenant is that welcoming and warm place for them. And it certainly is for me. And I feel really blessed that we have that. So
Me too. And it's cool. I mean, it hasn't changed over the years with respect to that. It's just, it's, I feel very blessed to be part of the community for sure.
mhm. Well, why is church important to you?
Well, for that very reason, just being able to share the love and the life of Christ with other people. And it's, again, just being in community with other people is something that's huge. And I think that's more impactful for me than not just being able to share that together. And so while I've enjoyed the Zoom services and totally in awe of you and Pastor Sarah of how you put all that together, it's been amazing. It's just nice to be around people sharing the same feelings and the same passion.
Absolutely. And would you say that's the best thing about being part of a church community, or would you say something else?
It's one of the best things for sure. I like the fact now that I'm retired, I have more time and I feel like I can devote more time to the church community, whereas prior to this, working and just raising a family and things like that. So I'm looking forward to being part of the session and the mission outreach committee, and really looking forward to being more involved with all of that and the church community as I go forward.
Wonderful. Well, it's so good to have this chance to talk and get to know you a little bit more, Beth. I really appreciate you making time for this. And we're so glad to have you as a part of session, and of course, as a part of Covenant. So thank you for this time. And I know lots of people enjoy getting to know you a little better through this.
Well, thank you for having me.
Have a nice day.
You too.